All right, we finally have it. This is Red Dead Redemption 2, and as you can see, I'm running it here on my RTX 2070 i5 9600K at maxed out settings. We're at Ultra. It says custom because I turned off VSync because that's stupid on a variable refresh rate monitor. Anyway, but other than that, we're on the maxed out, slide everything to the right settings. And before I turn on DLSS, which is what we're getting added in here now, let's get a quick look at what the game looks like just at normal maximum settings. And what I'm actually really curious on, this is my first impressions video, by the way, is if this is actually going to make the game look slightly better, not worse. Because I hate the TAA implementation in this game, the temporal anti-aliasing. I think it makes everything look a little bit smeared, just a little bit not super sharp. Now that's one of the things that DLSS has a tendency to do, as well as introducing artifacts. But I'm wondering if it'll be actually a little bit better than the native TAA. Well, let's find out. You can also see my frame rate counter there right now. Let me refresh that. So basically, walking in this little circle around camp, we're getting around 39-40 frames per second. The middle is the average there, down at that Vulkan line. You can see that as well as all the other GPU, CPU, memory, RAM usage, all of that. So we're right around a 41-40 frames per second average. You can tell certain angles are more difficult than others. By the way, my RTX 2070 would be doing a better job if I didn't have the overhead of running OBS to record this thing right now. Okay, let's pop on the DLSS and see how things go. So, popping on down here, DLSS, if you're not familiar with this, it lowers the rendering resolution of the game. Quality doesn't lower it very much, balance lowers it more, performance lowers it more, ultra performance lowers it even more. The exact resolutions depend on the resolution you're running the game at, so right now I'm running it at 1440p. Anyway, quality is usually as far as I'll go, otherwise I feel like the image gets pretty soft and you lose some detail. Personally, that's how it's been in most games for me. All right, let's apply it to quality and see how things look, as well as performance. Notice that the anti-aliasing solutions there, including TAA, were now grayed out. Okay, I'm going to reset the average counter. We'll walk our little loop around the camp here. Okay, my initial reaction, again, this isn't a side-by-side comparison. This is what you actually notice playing the game. When you actually are playing the game, how does it look? Well, I've got to say that visually it looks very close to the original. I actually do think that in some ways it is better than the TAA implementation at this quality setting. We can tell that we are getting much better frame rate. I'm up to around 45 frames per second average right here for this little loop, which is significantly better. Again, my frame rate would be even higher if I wasn't having the recording overhead right now. Now, I'm curious if we're getting any artifacting. Sometimes you get ghosting blurs on certain objects with DLSS. Certain things in motion kind of look a little unstable. I'm not, at least in this scene, seeing anything that's jumping out at me with those issues, which is good to see. I've got to say, quality seems really good. I'm happy with this, and I think I will be playing using the quality setting from now on. Definitely, if you're wanting my opinion, is it worth turning DLSS on here? I've got to say, for the image quality here looks very good to me. But let's test out some of the lower settings. By the way, if you're not that familiar with DLSS, you also need an RTX card to run DLSS. So that means a NVIDIA 20 series or higher. So we're going down to the balance setting here, making sure we actually remember to apply the settings. And jump back into the game and see what it looks like. On that note, by the way, I hope somebody adds an FSR mod to the game if it doesn't happen naturally. Wait, why is my frame rate not much better? Okay, there it starts to go. I was gonna say, did I not even apply the balance preset? Because the frame rate still isn't that much better. I don't seem to be CPU bottlenecked. It's still a GPU bottleneck if you look at the percentages. Interesting. Now I've got to say, balance is actually looking pretty solid here as well. I'm honestly sort of wondering if I failed to implement it. Like, let's double check, because it looks very similar. Honestly, balance is looking a lot like quality. Did I not say that? No, we're on balance. But I also didn't gain that much frame rate there, at least in this scene. Anyway, let's jump down to performance and see what happens. Again, this is a 1440p comparison, right? We're at 1440p. Other people might do this at 4K, but honestly, more people are gaming at 1440p than are gaming at 4K. So this is probably more useful for you guys than the 4K stuff. Okay, our frame rates are not getting much better here. Is this just a rough scene? Can I just not get a good frame rate in this scene no matter how far down we push that resolution? It is getting better. We're up to 50. But it is just looking like this is a very difficult scene to run at ultra settings, even all the way down here at the performance mode. Now, I'm starting to definitely see the softness and lack of detail in some of the stuff. Let's look at the character models here and jump back into native for a second. Let's jump back in here. But overall, I'm very happy with this implementation. It looks really good to me, at least in this scene. We're gonna go all the way back to native with DLSS off and see what we see. Okay. I feel like you've got more detail on the characters' faces and clothing and such. So I feel like all the way down at performance, we had a bit of a notable loss here. Now again, down to native, we're down here into the low 40s or so. So I've got to say, at least in this scene, I'm not getting the massive performance jumps that I was kind of hoping I would, but I am getting significantly better performance. Maybe it's this fog or something that we've got in this particular scene. Should we ride around a bit? I don't want to make this video too long, but maybe we should get out of this location for a bit. Where's me horse? Let's go for a bit of a horse ride here. So again, this isn't native. So at native, I'm gonna reset my average here for a little ride through the scenery. So there's native. Let's throw on a little bit of quality DLSS. Actually, I'm curious. Well, I'm curious if out of the camp I can get a higher frame rate. Because I was honestly hoping that with quality or at least balanced, I'd be able to hit 60 frames per second maxed out. Let's see where we're at. Okay, now I can definitely tell that out in a scene like this, again, we're mid-50s, but if I didn't have my the overhead from recording on OBS, I would definitely be over 60 right now. So, minus the recording overhead, I think that down here at balance, we would definitely be doing good. And honestly, is this balance? This looks pretty good. This really does look pretty good, guys. Now, I wonder if I get near this wagon and watch it go, if we'll see any ghosting artifacts. A lot of times, moving objects like that would get a ghosting artifact. I'm trying to see if we can see anything. The reins look a bit funky as we in motion here. Some things look a little iffy in motion here, guys. Maybe a bit of yeah. So I can definitely tell we're getting some DLSS garbage happening on that moving vehicle. Let's jump back here and play with it just off for a second. Wait, I guess we went up to quality. Didn't mean to do quality. We're actually going to turn that off for a second because I want to see if I can show you guys the difference on what that wagon will look like without the DLSS jaggies and artifacting and ghosting and such. Let's see if I can get a bit closer. Reset the frame rate counter as well. Okay, so I think, you know, it's not perfect, but I feel like things in motion like that as you watch them drive by. So this is at native. It's still not perfect at native, but I think the it was accentuated with the DLSS on there a little bit. But honestly, I've got to say, overall, I think using DLSS here makes a lot of sense, as well as just turning down a few key settings to get yourself a frame rate you're happy with. I'm going to maybe play this game a bit. I sort of gave up on it a while back. Just kind of lost interest about 20 hours in. All right, guys, hope all of you have an excellent day, and a special thank you to my sponsors. My sponsors are you guys, except apparently I'm not on my screen that has them saved, so I'll just thank you without putting up the list. Have an excellent day.